Force 5 is a 1981 action-adventure film from director Robert Clouse. The movie opens with, oh my god, listen to this music, it's glorious. If that doesn't get you pumped up for a fight movie, I don't know what will. Over at an evil cult, Reverend Ree is preaching to his followers. Is he going on again? The Kool-Aid can't get here fast enough. Meanwhile, a sniper's getting ready to take him out. Take the shot, take the shot! Well, he's certainly no Thomas Beckett. In comes Carl, who's here to stop this nonsense. Look at the size of this guy! I think he's the real-life Big McLarge huge. Back to the cultists, they're stuck on the Y part of YMCA. This guy's been holding in his shit for 3 hours. The Reverend goes to see the guy who tried to kill him. He tells him to spill the beans on who hired him, or he'll have to watch reruns of Super Train. The assassin gives in and tells him he was hired by William Stark. The Reverend then gives him a swift kick to the face. If church was more like this, I'd probably go. They throw him into a maze because every evil cult has an underground maze, right? He finds someone who didn't seem to make her way out. The Reverend opens the maze gate, which unleashes something! Mr. Becker goes to meet Mr. Martin. The two head into the woods to have some breakfast. Just then, Martin gets changed into his ass-kicking attire. Am I supposed to be aroused? Don't look! Oh, maybe a little peek. On their way to breakfast, they're attacked by some of Martin's students, who are doing some sort of ninja training. Becker gets caught in a net and loses his mind. Mr. Stark arrives in the EM-50. Stark tells them about Reverend Ree's cult. He and his followers live on an island and are above the law. The Reverend got a bunch of rich kids to come to the island, and in order to join the cult, they had to sign all their possessions over to him. Why is their logo a uterus? He wants them to go to the island and rescue a girl named Cindy, the daughter of a very rich businessman. Martin tells him he can do it, but he's going to need the help of 5 special men. Oh, so this isn't Fox Force 5. He sends telegrams out for his fighters. Well, this movie just dated itself. First up is Billy Ortega. I love his taco shells. Some guys try to stop him, so Billy takes him out. He calls Lockjaw, who's being chased by a team of angry bikers. Lockjaw's tired of running, so he stops and beats the gang up. Then he kicks Seth Rogen in the groin. Ezekiel takes on a whole pool hall that's trying to cheat him out of his winnings. Jesus, every day for these guys non-stop excitement? Martin goes to see Lori. How will she ever know it's him with that Zorro mask on?
When did you figure it's me?
How many tall blonde guys break into her place and start kung fu fighting? Carl finds Stark. They kill his assistant and oh dear! Martin's briefing the team on the mission. Before they start, they have to get their 5th member, Willard, out of a prison in Ecuador. The team then shows off their acting chops.
Willard could lose it for all of us. We need a good chopper pilot.
The gang steals a truck and breaks into the prison. They cause a full-on prison riot. Lori doesn't seem to know what to do here. They get into the prison and use the patented slam the guard's face into the gate technique. Lockjaw hits a guy so hard he goes airborne. To stop the guards from chasing them, they set a bunch of mattresses on fire. Good thing Lockjaw keeps some spare road flares in his socks. Martin finds Willard, who's turned his prison cell into a luxury apartment. Willard doesn't want to leave, but they convince him to join them. Seems he's been sexing up the commandant's daughter. He asks her to let them take her hostage as a way to get out of the prison.
Okay.
He must be phenomenal in the sack. Hey babe, we're gonna take you hostage, but it's okay, right? The gang's leaving. She's not the most believable hostage.
I'll be right back, Daddy.
In 1981, a crack commando unit broke a teammate out of a maximum security prison for a crime he didn't commit. Today, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the Force 5. Wait, there's 6 of them. They need to lose a teammate or come up with a new name. Cindy's talking to one of the disciples. We find out her friend Sue was the one dead in the maze. The team set up a deal with the senator to get them access to the island.
I always thought his daughter was rather flighty. Yoga and all that shit.
Yes, because we all know doing yoga leads to joining cults. The hippies go out to meet the senator. He's certainly got a Bill Clinton thing going on. The Reverend shows how he keeps the cultists busy by giving them arts and crafts. Martin locates Cindy and tells Lori to keep an eye on her. Martin recognizes one of the cultists is really a reporter. As bad luck would have it, Carl also discovered the guy's a reporter. The Reverend hits the funfetti switch and throws a party for the guests. Billy's making eyes at one of the cultists as she sexily eats a bologna sandwich. Martin searches the grounds while Laurie goes to look for Cindy. The Reverend's disciples go after the reporter. They corner him and give him a good beating before taking him back to the Reverend. Back at the tents.
And I'm afraid I'm going to step on something slimy.
Ew, so that's what the guys are doing outside the tents. Laurie talks to Cindy. She tries to get her to question the things going on, but she's not interested. The Reverend uses his interrogation tactics on the reporter. Martin gets into one of the main buildings and finds drugs! They put the reporter in the maze and unleash... Oh, it's a bull. That makes sense. Wait a minute, no it doesn't! Martin finds a stockpile of weapons, but gets caught by some guards, so he takes him out. The Reverend is very disappointed by this, so he puts on his pizza cutter shoes. He does what you expect. Martin goes back to the group and tells them what he found. Some disciples come to take Cindy to see the Reverend. This excites Easily Excitable Guy.
Praise the Lord!
The senator doesn't know how to handle all this, so he gets good and drunk. The Reverend gets Cindy to sign her life away, and then lets her go. Carl uncovered who Martin is. The Reverend then tells them to stage an accident so the whole group dies. Cindy gets lost trying to leave and finds the body of the reporter. She then goes to tell Laurie. I saw a dead body and it was all gross and stuff. They come to see the senator, but he's been taken to the Reverend, so Martin goes to rescue him. Laurie goes to tell the gang by the helicopter. They beat up the guards and then go back to the mission. Martin takes out various henchmen. Laurie's frowny fighting.
Thank God for Black & Decker.
Well, it's about time we had a one-liner. Martin slow-mo kicks these guys in an elevator. Now the big showdown between Carl and... what the hell was that guy's name? LoJack? Oh, right, Lockjaw. Carl puts up a good fight, but gets his head popped. Martin faces off with the Reverend.
Your guys are losing out there.
No, Andy.
Why, Rev, you saucy one. Martin then gets chased by the bull. He does what you'd expect. He blows it the fuck up. The Reverend then uses his evil ninja stealth moves to fight Martin. They then have a knockdown, drag-out fight that ends with the Reverend getting impaled. Oh, pickaxe to the spine. Now with dozens dead, the group takes Cindy and leaves the island. So now a bunch of ex-rich kids are alone on an island with no one to take care of them? This is going to be like the Fyre Fest, isn't it? The movie was directed by Robert Clouse. In 1973, Clouse directed the first Hollywood-style martial arts movie, Enter the Dragon. The movie was one of the first, if not the first, collaboration between Hong Kong and Hollywood, and introduced American mainstream audiences to Bruce Lee. It was also the first film to combine martial arts with blaxploitation. Also within the film was a 19-year-old Jackie Chan, under the name Chan Yun Lung as one of the extras. Lee fights him in the cave scene and snaps his neck. Enter the Dragon was a monumental hit, pulling in over $90 million on a $1 million budget. Unfortunately, Lee was never able to enjoy the success, as he died on July 20th, 1973, 6 days before the release of the film. Clouse followed Enter the Dragon up with the loose spin-off, Black Belt Jones, starring Jim Kelly. He also directed an episode of the TV show The Master, which Mystery Science Theater 3000 fans will know better as Master Ninja. Clouse continued to direct mostly action films, with the exception of the occasional horror film, like The Pack and Deadly Eyes. Clouse's films relied heavily on visual storytelling, mainly because the director was deaf. He had assistants who would help him monitor the films, and relay to the director if the actors delivered their lines correctly or not. Joe Louis, who played Martin, was one of the greatest kickboxers of the 60s and 70s. Louis is one of only 5 people to ever defeat Chuck Norris. In 1979, he became the world karate champion after winning 12 straight fights, all by knockout. He also coined the term American kickboxing. Force 5 was his third film and his second lead. His first movie was a film called The Wrecking Crew, where he played an uncredited guard. He continued acting in movies like Mr. X and the outstanding Blood Moon, but he's better known as a kickboxer. Grandmaster Bong Soo-han played Reverend Ri. He's known as the father of Hapkido to the Western world. He brought his talents to Hollywood as the fight choreographer and stuntman for Billy Jack. Han revolutionized Hollywood's usage of martial arts in films because up to that point, the martial arts in movies was done by actors who were not martial artists. Richard Norton played Ezekiel, At a young age, he was fascinated by martial arts and began training. He was a bodyguard for the Rolling Stones during the Australian leg of their Pacific tour in 1973. After that, he worked with numerous artists like Fleetwood Mac and David Bowie. In the late 1970s, Linda Ronstadt hired him to be her personal bodyguard in California. He was friends with Chuck Norris, who cast him in his first movie, The Octagon. This caught the attention of Clouse, who hired him for Force 5. After that, he starred in dozens of films, and worked with another Clouse regular, Cynthia Rothrock, in China O'Brien 1 and 2. Norton's still doing action films today, and was just in Mad Max Fury Road as the Prime Imperator. Force 5 is a fun, somewhat ridiculous action film. While not well received in the US, it did better overseas. The cast is great, the action scenes are well done, but the story is kinda silly. For an organization that's fleecing rich morons out of their wealth, you'd think they'd be able to invest in some door locks. Their guards consist of the behemoth Carl, and then a bunch of miscellaneous cannon fodder. A group of 6 took on an army of 50, and they had next to no problems. I think Clouse was trying to set up a potential franchise here, something like a martial arts version of the Dirty Dozen. A team of kung fu commandos for hire that travel around the globe kicking evil in the face. It's a shame that didn't happen, and if you think about it, Force 5 is pretty much the prototype for the Expendables.
Try to find Forrester!